So preloaded in Revit are a number of features. With that, so if we go to edit type, so for a standard duplex receptacle, we have a voltage of 120 volts. Load classification is receptacle. This will show up in our panel schedules, and a load of 180 VA. So if we wanted to, let's say, we'll duplicate this type, we'll create another type. Let's call this a quad. Now we won't change the graphics, but we can change the load. So the load will be 360 VA, and if there's, like, let's say we wanted to have a label on it, call it quad, we hit OK, then that label would show up as well. So because on some of our, for the GFCI receptacles, would be here. Again, if we want to change that type, we can change it back to standard. But this is pretty important to make sure that we have the right VA, the right load classification, the right voltage default elevation. So this is what we're going to put it in at, and that's to center. And then if there's a special label, like if we want this to be, let's say, we can duplicate it again. Let's call this USB receptacle, and you want to have USB as a label on your receptacles. Okay, now we'll have this title come up as USB. Unfortunately, since this is built in the family, you can't move it. It will always be in that location, in that orientation. If you want to have it as a tag, then it would need to go under a different type mark. So it might be comments, and then we create a tag that says comments. So create type comments, and this could be USB. We create a tag that would read this parameter, then you could pull it in, rotate it, put it in whichever way you please. One other thing to note under load classification, so if we go into this, and these are all the defaults within Revit, so appliances, cooling, default, clothes dryer, elevator equipment, existing loads, farm load, lighting, HVAC, kitchen, motor loads, power general. So one thing within receptacles is our demand factor, which, as we all know, is incredibly important. So for our first 10,000, we have a demand factor of 100%, and after that 10,000 is our demand factor of 50%, and again by load, and this is all built into Revit. So very nice. It's defaulted, so we don't typically have to worry about this, but for other things, if we know we have a different demand factor, we can edit them in here. Same with our lighting. So if we have a demand factor that we can apply to them, that would be done in here. All of that can be done through Revit and through those demand factors, which will help our overall size. But one thing to note when putting anything in or sizing anything are those type properties and the demand factors of those specific pieces of equipment. Receptacles are pretty straightforward, but it's important to know for other types of electrical elements.